Black Phone 2, new horror film from Scott Derrickson, sequel to the 2021 film The Black Phone, that is gone now for whatever reason. Returning cast of Ethan Hawke, Mason Thames, and Madeleine McGraw. The movie takes place a few years after the events of the original. Finn is still haunted by the occasional phone call from the afterlife, tries to shake the trauma of the serial killer until his younger sister starts experiencing strange, vivid nightmares, leading them both to a Jesus camp in the snowy Colorado mountains, where a mystery from the past comes back along with the ghost of the grabber. So I gotta say, this is like the definition of mixed feelings for me. I liked the first film quite a lot, but when I've heard they're making a sequel, I thought, but how and why? The story is finished, the villain is dead, and what are you doing with this? And then the movie started, and it turns out that they did manage to find an interesting way to bring back Ethan Hawke as the grabber. And it sort of fits in with the already established lore. So I was like, okay, I'm fine with this. Let's see where it's going to go. And for a while, it was going okay, even good at times. The setup for the story in the sequel is pretty cool. It very clearly draws inspiration from things like Nightmare on Elm Street and The Shining. The idea of the dream state being a kind of astral plane is insanely cool, and it is filmed in a fantastic way. They've used Super 8 and Super 16 cameras for these dream sequences, which makes them look like a super grainy, shitty old home video. Really fitting and unnerving choice that also immediately sets the dreams apart from reality. I also think Mason Thames is solid and Ethan Hawke is fantastic. However, there are also problems, mainly two of them. One is Madeleine McGraw's performance, which is very stiff and unconvincing, which is a big issue because she's the main character now. And her wooden acting really took me out of the film, almost every scene. She also has the misfortune of being given numerous terrible insult lines, which I guess the writers hoped would be fun and entertaining, but they come off as really artificial and cringe. And then, secondly, the entire final act of the movie is absolutely dogshit. It's supposed to take place in the middle of the night on a frozen lake in the snowed in mountains, in winter, obviously. But there is no illusion of that reality because the characters are all wearing light clothes. They look like they're warm all the time. There's no, whatever, smoke vapor coming from the breath. Two of the characters end up falling into the icy water. They get out and they continue to function without problem. My friend, they would both be, they would both have hypothermia at least in real life if they wouldn't just straight up be dead. The entire lake surroundings look totally fake, even though supposedly the movie was shot on location in Canada. And when Ethan Hawke started ice skating around the lake with an axe in his hand, I was done. I was like, okay, this was a tense horror. Now it's a silly, campy B movie. It is quite remarkable how weirdly awful the final act turns out to be, honestly. I went from being fairly invested in the film to not giving a shit rather quickly. So in the end, it's disappointing. I think it's a sequel that was unnecessary in the first place, but then had some genuinely interesting ideas that partly worked, but then it fumbled those ideas and went back to being completely unnecessary again. Shame, really.